The wind howled, echoing through the ancient trees like a mournful wail. Rain lashed against the crumbling stone walls, each drop a hammer against the past. Inside, a fire sputtered, casting flickering shadows on the worn floorboards, dancing like ghosts of forgotten times. An old woman lay gasping, her breath rattling in her chest, each inhale a struggle against the inevitable. She clutched a young man's hand, her eyes wide with fear, desperation etched into every wrinkle of her face.
"Beware the witch," she rasped, her voice a dry whisper, barely audible over the storm's fury. "She lives in the woods, her heart filled with hate, her soul darkened by vengeance. You took something precious from her. Now she seeks revenge, a relentless force of nature."
The young man, Thomas, leaned closer. He could barely hear her over the raging storm, straining to catch every word.
"Who is she? What did I take?" he asked, his voice trembling with fear and confusion.
With a final shuddering breath, the old woman's eyes glazed over, her life slipping away, her grip loosened, her hand falling limply onto the bed, lifeless and cold. Silence descended upon the room, broken only by the crackling fire and the relentless storm outside, a haunting symphony. Thomas sat beside the cold body. He was alone, the weight of the moment pressing down on him. The weight of the old woman's cryptic warning pressed down on him, a heavy burden of dread. The witch, the curse, what did it all mean? His mind raced, trying to piece together the fragments of the warning. The old woman named Agnes had taken Thomas in when he was just a boy, orphaned and alone. He had no memories of his life before the old cottage, nestled at the edge of the dark woods. Now Agnes was gone, and the cottage felt colder, more menacing than ever. He wandered through the dusty rooms, his hand trailing along the rough-hewn furniture. He stopped at a small, tarnished mirror. His reflection stared back, his face pale and drawn.
Was it his imagination, or did a dark shadow flicker at the edge of his reflection?
He spun around, heart pounding. There was nothing there. He was alone. Or was he? The wind howled outside, sounding like a mournful cry. The old woman's warning echoed in his ears.
"Beware the witch."
Seeking answers, Thomas ventured into the nearby village, a place shrouded in mystery and whispers. A blanket of fog clung to the cobblestone streets, obscuring the faces of the villagers who moved like shadows in the mist. He stopped at the tavern, the only source of light in the oppressive gloom, its flickering glow a beacon in the darkness. Inside, hushed whispers greeted him, the air thick with unspoken secrets. Eyes darted nervously towards him, then quickly away as if afraid to linger too long. He approached the barkeep, a burly man with a face etched with worry, lines of concern deepening as Thomas drew near.
"I'm looking for information," Thomas said, his voice steady but urgent. "About a witch who lives in the woods," he added, his words hanging heavy in the air.
The barkeep's eyes widened in shock, a flicker of fear crossing his face. "You shouldn't speak of such things," he hissed, his voice low and urgent. He glanced around nervously, then leaned closer to Thomas. "The witch is real," he whispered. "She lives deep in the woods in a place where few dare to venture. But you'd be wise to forget about her," he warned, his tone grave. "Some things are best left undisturbed," he added, his eyes reflecting the weight of his words.
Thomas persisted, his determination unwavering.
"Please, I need to know more," he pleaded, desperation creeping into his voice. "It's a matter of life and death," he insisted, his eyes pleading.
The barkeep hesitated, then sighed deeply as if weighing a heavy decision.
"Very well," he said reluctantly. "But be warned, what you seek is dangerous knowledge, knowledge that could change everything."
The barkeep led Thomas to a secluded corner of the tavern.
"They say the witch was once a healer," he whispered, "with a gift for herbs and potions. But a powerful lord coveted her power. He stole her knowledge, burned her home, and left her for dead."
"But she survived," Thomas said, his voice barely a whisper.
The barkeep nodded.
"Twisted and consumed by hatred. They say she cursed the lord and his descendants, vowing revenge for what he had stolen."
Thomas's voice trembled.
"Agnes, the woman who raised me, she claimed I was cursed. She said I took something from the witch."
The barkeep's eyes widened.
"And what was her dying wish?"
"She said I had to find the witch and break the curse."
The forest was a place of twisted trees and gnarled branches, shrouded in an unnatural silence that seemed to swallow all sound. Thomas, armed with nothing but a flickering lantern and a heart full of trepidation, ventured into its depths, his every step echoing his growing fear. He followed the barely discernible path, the air growing colder and heavier with each step. Days turned into nights and the forest seemed endless. The forest seemed to press in on him, the silence broken only by the rustling of unseen creatures and the occasional snap of a twig. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, he stumbled upon a clearing. In the center stood a dilapidated hut, smoke curling from its crooked chimney, giving it an air of eerie anticipation.
As he approached the hut, the door creaked open, the sound echoing through the stillness. A figure emerged from the shadows, her eyes glowing with an eerie green light that pierced the darkness.
"You have come at last," the witch rasped, her voice like dry leaves rustling in the wind, carrying an ancient, foreboding tone. "I have been expecting you," she said, her eyes never leaving his.
The witch's hut was a place of strange smells and flickering candlelight. Dried herbs hung from the rafters and strange symbols were etched into the walls. The witch, her face a mask of wrinkles and wisdom, watched Thomas intently.
"You seek to break the curse," she said, her voice a low rasp. "But a curse given in pain and rage is not easily undone." She pointed a gnarled finger at a table. "Bring me the ingredients. You'll find them in the heart of the forest." "Ayulaska.
She handed him a piece of parchment. Scrawled upon it were the names of strange herbs and roots.
"Gather them quickly," she warned. "The ritual must be performed under the light of the full moon."
The forest was alive with unseen eyes and rustling movements. Thomas felt a growing unease as he searched for the ingredients, each rustle of leaves sending shivers down his spine. He felt a presence following him, watching his every move. As he gathered the last of the herbs, a blood-curdling scream pierced the stillness. He whirled around, his heart pounding in his chest.
A dark figure stood at the edge of the clearing, its eyes glowing with malevolent intent. Fear gripped him. He stumbled back, dropping the precious herbs. The figure lunged, its claws outstretched, and Thomas knew that the curse was no mere legend. It was real, and it was coming for him.
He scrambled back to the hut, his breath catching in his throat. He slammed the door shut, the flimsy wood offering little comfort against the growing darkness outside. He turned to the witch, his eyes wide with terror.
"It's here," he gasped. "The creature, it's real."
The witch merely nodded, her expression grim.
"The curse feeds on fear, on guilt, on the darkness within us all." She pointed to the table. "Quickly, the ingredients. There is still time."
He rushed to the table, his hands trembling as he arranged the herbs and roots. The witch began to chant in a language he didn't understand, her voice weaving a tapestry of power and dread. The air crackled with energy, the shadows in the room writhing and twisting. The chanting reached a fever pitch, the hut vibrating with unseen force. The air grew thick and heavy, making it difficult to breathe. The witch's eyes blazed with an unearthly light.
"Now, Thomas," she commanded, her voice echoing through the small hut. "You must face the curse. You must confront the darkness within yourself."
He closed his eyes, fear threatening to consume him. He thought of Agnes, her dying words ringing in his ears. He thought of the creature, its glowing eyes filled with malice. And in that moment, he understood. The curse wasn't something external, something inflicted upon him. It was a part of him, a reflection of the darkness he carried within. He opened his eyes, a new resolve hardening his gaze. He would not let fear control him. He would not let the curse define him. He stepped forward into the center of the swirling energy and faced the witch.
"I'm not afraid," he said, his voice surprisingly steady. "I will not let darkness consume me."
And as the words left his lips, the air shimmered and the shadows receded. The witch smiled, a genuine smile that reached her ancient eyes.
"You have faced your demons, Thomas, and in doing so, you have broken the curse."
The light faded, and the hut fell silent. The curse was lifted, but the journey had changed him, leaving an indelible mark on his soul. Thomas emerged from the forest, blinking against the bright sunlight. He looked back at the trees, their branches swaying gently in the breeze. The village, once shrouded in fog and fear, now seemed brighter, more welcoming. He had faced the witch, confronted the curse, and emerged victorious. But he knew that darkness never truly disappears. It lurks in the shadows, waiting for a moment of weakness to resurface.
He carried the memory of the curse, a constant reminder of the fragility of life, the ever-present potential for darkness within himself and the world around him. And as he walked towards the village, he vowed to never let the shadows consume him again.